Check, check. Yeah. I used to think that motivation is the number one thing that will enable me to reach my goals, but over time I've come to realize that that's not the case. Now, I define motivation as a fleeting sense of empowerment that is not long lasting. And of course, it can be tied to a longer term goal and can be enough to initiate action, but not necessarily keep it up. While the one thing I've kind of now built over the, say, past half a year or 1 year that I've realized that kind of helps me work towards my goals and even has helped me to reach some of my goals already is discipline. Now, discipline I define as the ability to do something tough, productive, or otherwise important to you regularly, regardless of your feelings or the circumstances on any given day. When it comes to the key characteristics of these two terms, there are, I think, two main ones: time or timeliness and emotion. When it comes to motivation, it's very short lasting and based on feelings on any given moment. Because it is so fleeting, it's not a reliable tool for you or me or anyone else to use in order to work towards your goals. While discipline, when it comes to timeliness, it is long lasting. And basically, once you get it going and once you build a good structure, emotions don't come to play. Everything kind of works on autopilot. And these two kind of factors in these two terms are the most important ones, I think, to consider. When it comes to these two terms and how timeliness and emotion relate to them, wherein then lies the challenge? Why is it so hard to kind of embrace discipline and maybe steer away from relying on only motivation? And in my opinion, the challenge lies in the time it takes for each of these two things to occur. Motivation inherently, at least in my own experience, comes about quite quickly. Maybe you see a post on social media that motivates you. Maybe there's some other thing around you that inspires you, or a person. Maybe you have a goal and the thought of reaching that goal motivates you. Those are nice things, but because motivation is just a feeling, it will at some point run out. And the occurrence of moments where you feel motivated, because it's not structured, it's inherently quite haphazard. You can't rely solely on motivation to get you going, to get you doing things. And that's where discipline comes in. And why it's so challenging is because discipline is rooted in your habits. And in order to build habits, based on what your source of research is, it takes usually, let's say, 9 to 12 weeks to really not only form habits, but to solidify habits in your everyday life. And because it takes so much time to form habits, and therefore a good structure, which in turn correlates with discipline, because it takes so much time, usually we're just too impatient, or it's uncomfortable and it requires a lot of effort, and we give up before we give enough time for the habits to solidify and become a part of our routine. And this is where the key difference, where the challenge in my opinion lies, is just the amount of time and dedication you have to devote for something to become kind of second nature to you. When you have a structure and you have a goal which you actually like, you have a strong why behind why you want to reach a certain goal. When you have that and you have formed habits, formed maybe a framework, for instance, in my case, my goal is the triathlon. I have a reason, a why behind why I want to reach that. And then I have a framework. I have my weekly training schedule planned for each season. When you do that for whatever your goal is, then it takes the decision making, the thinking work away from it. There's no kind of emotional reaction. You know what you have to do in order to achieve your goal. When you have done it for many weeks in a row, then it becomes kind of second nature to you. So the key thing here is to give things time and get over the initial struggle of wanting things to happen fast. And this is something I struggled with, let's say 1 year ago, even after my last triathlon, and definitely like before 25, I wasn't super disciplined. Now, in my own case, especially in 24 and parts of 25, I was very motivation driven. So I didn't really have a structure, especially in 24. I did things whenever I felt like doing things, and that was very haphazard, random, and therefore I feel like I didn't get much done, didn't actively work towards goals and so on. But now in 25, and especially this year, because I don't rely on motivation, of course at times I feel motivated, but now I have a solid structure and solid discipline, so it's easier to get things done, even on days when I don't feel like it. So that has changed for me a lot in the recent or past year, let's say. Okay, I'm back from the city, just studying and reading, and now having thought about discipline a little bit more and how it is nowadays for me. Now I feel like I almost have the opposite situation compared to 24 and 25, where I have a hard time like finding things to do that are not goal oriented or somehow measured or optimized. I don't know if that's a good or bad thing, but that's at least how it is now. But I guess the main point is that you have some sort of balance. The important thing to remember, in my opinion, is the reason why you have specific or certain goals. Because if they are true to what you really want to do and aligned with kind of who you are, then it doesn't really matter if you're working hard or super disciplined about it, because then it's kind of genuine. And at least in my case, when I'm training or doing other things that are related with other goals that I have, which maybe I haven't talked publicly about on this channel, maybe they are not relevant currently, but kind of when working towards those things, the work doesn't feel too straining in a way. Because in my case, for instance, even if I'm training currently 10 hours per week, some weeks harder, some weeks lighter, depending on how I feel, it's genuinely something I enjoy doing. And same goes for studying and reading and other things I'm working on. The main point and important thing I've realized when thinking about motivation versus discipline and how those two things relate to you achieving your goals is usually goals are very long term. For instance, me, I can't think of any goals that I personally have that would be short term, achievable within weeks or even months. So because they are long term, it's also important that your methods or expectations meet that reality. It would be kind of silly to or assume that just by being motivated now and then you will achieve your goals, which are far away in the future. It really requires a certain structure and kind of devotion, which I think comes from being disciplined and is rooted in habits and so on. Yeah, so I guess my main takeaway is that it's important that the reality of your actions meet the expectations of your goals, so that the discipline and your goals are aligned. Yeah, that's my thoughts on motivation versus discipline. That's it. Now I'm gonna eat my pizza and relax. Maybe watch a movie. That would be nice. Thank you for watching. See you in the next one. Let's get it.